Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. And this just came across my feed this afternoon. Police in New York State said in a tweet this afternoon that it was on the scene of a mass shooting at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York. Multiple people have been struck by gunfire, and the suspect is in custody. According to the police department, the shooting happened at a Tops Friendly Markets on Jefferson Avenue in Buffalo. Why should you care about this? The police they have got to go to these gruesome scenes, and you will never believe what their New York governor tweeted out. She said that she's closely monitoring the shooting. Have we heard that before? Jen Psaki, literally yesterday, had come out and said that they were closely monitoring the situation with the baby formula. These people don't care. These people don't care about you or I. They don't care that there's a mass shooting going on. In fact, they're pro-criminal. This is what she said in her tweet. Listen to this. I am closely monitoring the shooting at a grocery store in Buffalo. We have offered assistance to local officials. If you are in Buffalo, please avoid the area. When is enough going to be enough? When are we going to start prosecuting these animals the way that they should be? I know nothing about the shooter as of right now. If I find out more throughout the show, I will be sure to tell you about it. Also, Twitter, they're reacting to Jeff Bezos absolutely torching Biden's latest plan to tackle inflation. They've even lost Jeff Bezos. This is amazing. The administration, whoever is pulling the strings, they have screwed the pooch so badly that they have lost Jeff Bezos. So the CEO of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, he caused quite a stir on Twitter on Friday when he publicly mocked Joe Biden for his latest solution for inflation. The world's second richest man, right behind Elon Musk, he said this to the president's tweet, saying that making the wealthiest businesses in the world pay their fair share would solve the inflation crisis currently gripping America. So this is what Jeff Bezos tweeted back. He goes, the newly created disinformation board should review this tweet, or maybe they need to form a new non-sequitur board instead. Raising corporate taxes is fine to discuss. Taming inflation is critical to discuss. Mushing them together is just misdirection. And Jeff Bezos was right on this, although he is an evil corporate. And this is my position on corporate versus capitalism, because the leftists, they will constantly come after you for, hey, you're a capitalist. Aren't you supposed to be like, all in favor of the wealthy and, building yourself up to be the richest billionaire? There's a difference between corporatism and there's a difference between corporatism and capitalism. Capitalism is something where you strive to completely get better and where you compete. These corporate animals buy out. And we see it in the media world. And that's kind of where my expertise is, right? I look at this sort of thing and you see these big media corporations try to buy out all of these little ones because these little ones are suffering because they are taking the entire market, because they have tried to cater to this evil consumer culture that we are stuck in. We need to stop consuming. And this is what I wanted to bring up today, because the baby formula situation. And I thought about it a lot after a listener had texted me. You can always text in on the text line 309-451-9299. We were talking about how baby formula hasn't always been around. But this shouldn't mean that we listen to the leftists either, right? Because baby formula was around in 1865, which is kind of old, right? It's been around for a long time, but it hasn't always been around. We obviously fed our babies something else, either that be breast milk, either that be solid food. We have to start thinking outside of the box. And that's where we've been lost as a country. We're not even consuming freely anymore. We're totally blind, and we're totally just acting as these look down type thinkers. That's just look down, do what the government tells me to do what everybody else is doing. And we need to run away, just absolutely run away from that ideology, because things are going to start to really get bad. You think it's bad now? Just imagine baby formula is the first thing that they're going after. And I have my theory on that, but baby formula is the first thing they're going after. If we are to abandon this ideology of being closed-minded thinkers and just doing what the government does and doing what everybody else around us is doing, if we were to abandon that, we would survive this thing. We're going to survive inflation. We're going to survive these shortages. We're going to survive the border crisis. We're going to survive these massive overdoses if we lose the closed-minded ideology. We have to start being free thinkers. We have to start thinking for ourselves, start thinking outside of the box. The reason why they are going after baby formula is because they know that this has been an established, patented product that has been on our shelves for a very, very long time. They know that it's established, and they know that we're faced with the question of, what do we feed our babies? I don't know what I would feed my baby if I can't feed my baby formula. This is what corporate culture does. Corporate culture tries to get you into this closed-minded thinking that this is the way life ought to be. No, life is the way you make it. You don't have to be trapped. You don't. They will trap you into a box, and it doesn't even, they don't care about you or me. They're coming after everything. Homemade infant formula can be dangerous, and now that's according to experts. And I came across this CNN article, but there's going to be a lot of misinformation about this thing. They're going to tell you that it's dangerous, that this is dangerous. I really haven't looked into what to feed your babies because, frankly, I'm not a mom, but this is what CNN says. Misinformation about how families can get through the infant formula shortage is fueling concern for many pediatricians. Yeah, because pediatricians have adopted this big, this big idea of, well, this is what we have to do in regards to feeding our children. This is a California doctor, and she's getting calls and emails because everybody freaking out right now. This is a result of not being a free thinker and not being a survivalist. We have to lose the ideology that they are the ones who can help us. The reason why they went after baby formula is because they know that this is something that is on our shelves and has been on our shelves. And it's something that, and I foresee them wanting to create ration cards, right? And this would be the product that drives people to those lines and gets people to ration. And like, you hand your ration card to the government and you say, I want my 4 packs of baby formula. I want my 4 packs of baby formula right now. Please help me. They know that this is the product. All the other products we can kind of substitute for because we're human beings and we can kind of change up our diets and everything. The babies, if they can't come for your babies via abortion, they're going to come for your babies via formula. And I truly do believe that. And it's terrifying and it's scary. But the CNN article, they're going to start saying that you have to be careful. You have to make sure that you find formula. Parents say that they've been to a dozen stores. They've looked at 100 websites and they can't find infant formula. It's scary for these moms and their babies, and it's becoming a real issue. The supply chain issues and the product recalls, that's not the reason why. The reason why this is happening is because this is a manufactured demise of our country. This is manufactured. Although the supply chain and the recalls, this has been a 6-month issue. This has been going on for 6 months. The processing, the plant that closed down as of early April, 7 states reported that between 40 and 50% of baby formula products were out of stock. Manufacturers have said that they are producing at full capacity to make up for it as much as they can, but they can't. They can't. So what is the FDA doing? They're doing absolutely nothing. The company involved in the most recent this recall happened months ago, and the Joe Biden administration isn't doing anything. So now is time for us to do something, for we, the people, to do something. We have to start surviving, because if we don't, we are going to see a world that is almost it's going to be a world where we are in almost like a utopia, or not a utopia, a dystopia. We are going to be in a dystopian world. Make no mistake. Hey, it's Conservative Cat. Come back after the break. Folks, baby formula is just the beginning. We need to start looking at brownouts and blackouts. This world is going to start crumbling, and it's going to start crumbling fast. Hey, text in 309-451-9299. It's Conservative Cat. Despite the House committee planning to continue hearings into expected problems with part of the state's energy grid, this is the state of Illinois. Governor J.B. Pritzker said he doesn't expect brownouts. What a liar. So last month, Ameren, Illinois warned consumers about their utility bills and how they are going to start increasing. We know this. They are also concerned that wind and solar sectors are not generating the amounts of energy needed. It's almost like conservatives have told you about that since the very beginning. Some at Ameren even expect or speculate that there's going to be rolling brownouts. So the reality for zones that do not have sufficient generation to cover their loads plus the required reserves is that they will have increased a risk of temporary controlled outages to maintain system reliability. This is all coming from the President Chief Operating Officer at Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, and it's Claire Moeller. And she said in this statement, from a consumer's perspective, those zones may face higher costs to procure power when it is scarce. We are in a scarcity. We are in a period of time where we don't have food, where we don't have power, where we don't have energy. And Pritzker said he doesn't expect brownouts. He is turning a blind eye, just like the Biden administration is turning a blind eye to the baby formula shortage. He's saying that power can be bought out from other states. Okay, well, imagine this, Jelly Bean. Imagine you try to buy power from another state. Okay, we buy their power. Now what happens to that state? Then we start to see their power start to trickle out and fade away. Then we start to see power trickle out and fade away from the state that they're trying to get it from. It's called energy independence, and we need to have it at a state level, and we need to have it at a national level. Because if we don't, if America dies, and if the state of Illinois dies, we die. This is what Governor J.B. Pritzker said. Are you ready? Nobody should think that what we passed in the state's clean energy law is reducing the amount of energy that we are able to provide. That's a lie. I remember he passed all kinds of stuff in order to make the wind lobbyists happy. This is what he did, and it's called eminent domain. And what eminent domain is, it's stealing power from other states, essentially, and what it happens is that we can't run our grid on that kind of power alone. And it's scary. And then he continues. He goes, what we are doing is incentivizing the creation of more energy production in our state. And that's what's going on. He's going to continue to gaslight you and tell you that all of this clean energy legislation that he is passing has nothing to do with him and that it's just fine, hunky dory and dandy. He is lying to you because he doesn't want you to know that he screwed the pooch and that this is going to really bite us, the Illinoisans, in the butt. This Clean Energy Jobs Act, approved last summer, gives hundreds of millions of dollars in ratepayer subsidies to nuclear energy generation and hundreds of millions of more to subsidies lined up for these so-called clean energy initiatives. They're all reliant on coal power plants. All of it is, I mean, just think about it. You try to push the electric car thing. They all operate. Like, how do you make the batteries? How do you charge your car? It's all coal powered anyway. So you're defeating the purpose. Pritzker acknowledged that part of the state where nuclear power received taxpayer subsidies will see lower utility bills. He said that he's looking at ways to lower bills for areas downstate that are expecting higher costs this summer. People are going to start seeing really, really high costs this summer. Illinois Manufacturers Association president and CEO, his name is Mark Denzler. He said that the law needs to be amended, especially to help manufacturers. This is what happens. Every single time the Democrats get their hands on some sort of legislation, they start to be really, really top down with it. And then you don't give the manufacturers room to breathe. I'm all for clean energy. Nobody is against clean energy. You cannot operate the Illinois power grid off clean energy, especially when you are breathing down the necks of manufacturers. It just won't work. Denzler said this: large and sophisticated companies should be able to create programs that meet their needs. This energy is not provided back to the market. They're used specifically on their local campuses, leading to reduced energy costs and lower emissions. This is going to be terrifying. I'm telling you right now, this is a terrifying time. The way that this state is operating, it needs to be upended. And it starts with our Constitution. I've said it multiple times. Our Constitution is broken. It is baked into the cake that corruption is real. Governor J.B. Pritzker, he can go ahead and say that we aren't going to see brownouts. I think that they're coming out this summer. It is going to be a crazy summer. We're going to have the crazy abortionists screaming. We're going to be on the brink of civil war. I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but the reality is that we have to start beginning to say to ourselves, look, we need a survival plan. We need to figure out what we should feed our babies. We don't need to rely on the big corporate formula. We don't need to rely on government. We don't need to rely on them for our power. And we also need to start banding together. The people who work at these power companies. You're starting to see Jeff Bezos swing to the other side. I talked about a tweet where he goes after Joe Biden on Twitter because Joe Biden is saying the next step to combating inflation is taxing the wealth. And that's just not the case. Like, that's not going to help inflation. What's going to help inflation is the pulling back of funding that we're giving Ukraine. What's going to help inflation is the pulling back of money. I mean, we passed the highest budget in the state of Illinois ever this year. And there's no reason for it. Governor J.B. Pritzker, he knows. He's got economists on every side of him, probably screeching and telling him, don't do this, please don't do this. He doesn't care. He wants to remain in power. He wants to satisfy the corrupt. And that's exactly what Richard Irvin is wanting to do. He wants to satisfy the corrupt. And Richard Irvin, he's just a pawn in all of this. When I say Richard Irvin, I mean Ken Griffin. Ken Griffin wants to satisfy the leftist Democratic power that is in Springfield with that money. Because what keeps power, and think of it almost as an engine, what keeps corruption going? When you feed it gas, and corruption being that engine. And I know I can't really talk about cars all that much. I'll start going down rabbit holes. Go ahead. Text me on the text line how wrong this is. I'm just using an analogy. So 309-451-9299. It's Conservative Cat. Imagine gas going into this engine, right? And it just lubing up all of the parts of corruption. That is what money is. The gas is the money. They don't care where they get their gas from, just like us, right? We just try to get it the cheapest way. They just try to get as much money as they possibly can. Now, that Ken Griffin money is looking very, very good for the Democratic Party, who is just trying to push out as much corruption as they possibly can, because this is manufactured. The demise of our state is manufactured. They don't want you to have any sort of independency. They want you to show up with your ration card in your hand, clenching it because you're so scared about how you're going to feed your child. And then they also want you to show up to the line where you say, hey, can I get power on for this amount of time? Can I have it from 2 to 4? No, I'm sorry, ma'am. You're going to have it from 4 to 7 tonight. That's it. Like that is what is facing this country in this state right now. And we have got to band together as communities. We have to start finding, hey, what community member has this plot of land? What community member knows how to raise chickens? What community member? We have to start utilizing our skills. They've tried to take away our skills. And I've talked about how the baby formula, they know that we rely on that. They know that we have abandoned and we have modernized to a point where we don't have a skill of feeding our child by ourselves anymore. It used to be a practice. Mothers and women used to be gatherers, and they used to do it used to be a practice feeding your child. And that's just the facts. That we used to be so in tune with what our skills were, because we weren't at the disposal of big corporate. And they know this about us. They know this about you. They know you've abandoned your survival skills. And I don't blame you. I mean, who wants to live in the Stone Age? When we have all of these beautiful things at our disposal, we need to start using our resources. And that's what Conservative Cat Cities 92.9 is all about today. We're pushing up against a break. Come back after the break. All right, big government is absolutely getting ridiculous, and we need to start saying, hey, enough is enough. We want to be left alone. Hey, it's Conservative Cat Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. And more than 125 bills, they were signed by our tyrant, Jellybean Pritzker, and that's exactly what he is, and I don't care. I don't care what the left has to say about it. I don't care if you think I'm some right-wing nut, and I'm done. I'm absolutely done. Before they adjourned last month, these state lawmakers, they approved more than 400 bills. 400 bills. I mean, darn. Like, are you serious? That's so much legislation. I just want breathing room. Can we just breathe? Can we be people? They were sent in just a few weeks, right? And he's been signing bill. Last Friday, he enacted 35 measures. This is getting ridiculous. This is not the way government should be, but they've allowed it under our Constitution. I've said this multiple times. Get yourself an Illinois Constitution. It will shock you how baked the corruption is in this cake that we call Illinois. Among the legislation Pritzker signed was a measure of combating organized retail theft. I've gone into that bill. It doesn't combat the true issue. What it does, it's soft on crime bills. It's soft on crime. They're pro-criminal bills. They try to re-language and constort language in favor of a criminal. That's exactly what this measure is. Pritzker held a news conference with this Illinois Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, who does absolutely nothing, and retail groups, and they basically had this little signing ceremony. I mean, the elitists were having a ceremony over the signing of this distorted organized retail theft bill that changes the definition of what retail theft is. And then later, Pritzker had signed another list of 127 bills. I'm telling you, just bill after bill after bill after bill. Even one that requires the school district to provide a plant-based school lunch option for students. I'm plant-based. Totally for it. Let the schools go. Let them go. Could you imagine a parent, right? And this is what happens. We get so complacent. And I know I'm harping, but I've just let this build up inside. And it should be building up and welling up inside of you. The parent. I look around and I'm looking at all these parents. What in the world would be stopping a parent from saying, maybe we should have some sort of plant-based lunch for kids. Maybe we should have some sort of option for kids. Then at that point, you take it to the school board, and the school board says, of course, yes, because why would they deny kids plant-based lunch? And then the school board takes care of it. When you have sweeping legislation like this at the state level, when you use the governor's office to tyrannically put things in place and to sign bill after bill after bill, we start to find ourselves in a place where we are no longer independent, and then where we start looking to Daddy Pritzker for everything. And I'm getting sick and tired of it, because he does not rule me. He does not rule you. Our community, our community members rule we are in charge of our elected officials. And at the local level, this is where it starts. We start finding out our talents here at the community level, and we start talking to each other. Hey, Kat's really good at gardening. She has got a green thumb. Let's start a community garden here, and let's kind of create a piece of legislation that says, you have to contribute this much to our community garden. Like, this is what government is designed to be. At the local level, right? My neighbor comes to me and says, hey, let's get this on the council where we can approve a community garden, and let's get it approved where we can try. And then we start to ask our community, we don't need an amphitheater. We don't need a bike trail. We need to start thinking about our kids. We need to start thinking about survival, because this is a point. We are reaching a point where we are going to start seeing blackouts, brownouts. We are going to start seeing baby formula off the shelves, and it's just starting with baby formula. Pretty soon it's going to be bread. Bread is one of those things that I think are going to happen next, because they know that baby formula we definitely need, and we just have got it baked into our heads that we need baby formula, because it's been around since 1875, and we know nothing else of how to feed our children. A lot of the time, maybe flour would be next. We have no idea, how do we get flour? They will start going after things that you have no idea on how to make, because it has just been so established, right? And it has been around for a long time, and these corporate people have taken control of the market, and there is no competition left, to where the little guy is competing with the big guy, and the little guy keeps the practice in the community. We don't have a butter maker in Bloomington. Do you know a butter maker in Bloomington Normal? Do you know somebody who knows how to make flour in Bloomington Normal? No, you don't, because you just buy the big corporate brand at your local Walmart, which is what's beautiful about America, but we've abused it and we've gotten complacent, and now is the time to wake up, my friends. Governor J.B. Pritzker, he also passed a bunch of legislation regarding our elections, and I haven't gotten into a lot of these bills yet, but there's one that provides the State Board of Elections, and it says that they shall provide certified remote accessible vote-by-mail systems for the general election of November 8th of 2022. So they're really pushing this Illinois State Board of Elections to have some sort of remote access. And I don't know if you've seen the 2000 Mules movie. I sure hope you have, but I'll summarize it for you. The 2000 Mules. So mules are literally exactly what they say they are. And in this movie, what really stood out to me was, hey, these mules, we could cross-reference. And what they did in the film, in the documentary, that Dinesh D'Souza and Charlie Kirk and Dennis Prager, a lot of our big names, they were in this film. And what they did was that they saw that these Antifa groups were in the same vicinity and these mules, and they cross-reference using geo-tracking with their cell phones. So basically what I'm getting at here is that these mules were geo-trafficked, and they were found to be also Antifa members. Yes, they were also found to be Antifa members. And what does that mean? That means that the Democratic Party, they are controlling everything at a top level. I need to know who is pulling the strings at the top, because what's happening is that this top level, top down, they are using the mules. They pay the mules a certain amount of money. And in this documentary, you can even see the mules. They're stuffing the ballots. They've got ballots upon ballots upon ballots. And now there were some states where that was legal, but you could only do it for yourself and a family member. So you could only have two. I'm talking people, backpacks, stuffing ballots, just continuously stuffing these ballots, and then taking pictures of the ballot boxes and sending that to the guy that was in charge of them. They had to have some sort of coordination. This is organized. This is organized crime. This is election fraud. And if you've watched the documentary, you would know this. These mules are not good people. A lot of the time, I think with this election fraud thing, we think that, it's these higher ups and they passed legislation and they kind of got it through. No, when I say it's organized crime, I mean criminals. These people were Antifa members. These people have had a history, and these people will do anything for money. And that's what they needed to do. They needed to find these people. And the Democrats are very good at that. Very good at finding criminals to practice their evil acts, because they know they're at their wits' end. And we, as Christian believing conservative constitutionalists, we believe that, hey, the best way to help out my struggling neighbor is not to coddle him, not to give him money to do evil things. No, the best way, and I try to say this all of the time, what's the best thing you can do? You can give a man a fishing rod and then he'll feed himself for days. Or you could give the man a fish. And that's what this boils down. This is what it boils down to. The Republicans will give you the fishing rod, and then the Democrats, they're going to give you the fish. And when I say Republicans, I don't mean the rhinos. I mean the constitutional conservatives who have that core fundamental value of, hey, I love my neighbor and I love human beings. And I think that I'm here on this earth in order to help my fellow neighbor out. And that's what Christianity is based off of. That's what the fundamental core of a Christian is that you help out that neighbor no matter what. And you're going to help that person out, not by coddling, not by lying to them, not by getting them to steal or cheat, but by actually helping them realize, hey, this is not right. This is not good. How can I change? You are an independent free thinker and you need to better your life. And that's the best thing that you can do for your fellow neighbor. Hey, it's conservative. We're pushing up against a break. But when we come back, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the core fundamental principles of a constitutional conservative and what that means and how we can tap into that for these coming days. A constitutional conservative, what does that mean? You can text it in 309-451-9299. Hey, it's Conservative Cat. We've got to get into this new study on COVID-19 vaccines and their administration to children. It's raising questions about prior mandates while pointing out very long-term concerns. The results and methodology were published on the JAMA network. Look it up, which has a variety of medical journals covering different fields. The three headlining researchers, Catherine, we've got, and then we've got all MDs. They're huge researchers, okay? So don't come at me, leftists, about the validity of the study. So what the study found, in my reading of the material, directly contradicted the COVID hysterics who have been pushing coronavirus vaccination on children ages 5 to 11 and adolescents ages 12 to 15. Here's the question. Does the estimated effectiveness of 2 doses of this COVID-19 vaccine against symptomatic COVID Omicron variant infection, based on the odds ratio for association of prior vaccination and infection, wane rapidly among children and adolescents as has been observed for adults? So are we seeing the same thing in kids as we are adults? So the findings in a test negative case controlled study conducted from December of 2021 to February of 2022. This is a new study during the Omicron variant predominance that included over 121,000 tests from sites across the United States. It estimated the vaccine effectiveness against symptomatic infection for children 5 to 11 was 60.1%, 2 to 4 weeks after the dose. And then after their second dose, it waned from 28.9% during the second month, during month 2 after the dose. After dose 2. So my point is, the more COVID-19 vaccines you get, the weaker the more that vaccine starts to not help you, especially among children. Among adolescents 12 to 15 years of age, estimated vaccine effectiveness was at 59.5%, 2 to 4 weeks after dose 2. It was only 16.6%. 6%. And then during month 2, estimated booster dose effectiveness in adolescents 2 to 6.5 weeks after the booster, it was 71.1%. The goal of this study was to measure the effectiveness of the 2-dose regimen in children regarding symptomatic infection. In other words, do the vaccines do what they're supposed to do or not? It's already been established that they do not stop the spread of COVID-19, but do they at least dramatically lower the risk of symptomatic infection in adults, especially those who are older or at higher risk, because we know that COVID-19 symptoms are usually what kill you? The answer to this is yes, though a discussion over when it becomes statistically necessary is a worthy one, because we don't even know if that question is statistically there, because the more and more doses you get, and this is just basic biology, immunization decreases your immunity. Like the vaccine, if you over vaccinate your body, you are going to kill your immune system. Not here trying to be an anti-vaxxer, but I am saying that is just the truth. In children, the results raised real questions about whether there should be any push at all for a vaccine. In other countries, in Europe, they've decided against vaccinating children due to an already nearly non-existent risk of COVID-19 and the lack of longitudinal data. There's no data on if this will actually help a kid. And yet we're still pushing it here in the United States. Why? The study did not measure the effectiveness of a booster after 6.5 weeks, but it's certainly logical to think that the effectiveness could wane rapidly, just as it did with the 2-dose regimen. We need to start having a conversation still. Parents have the right to do so if they wish. It's totally on you. I'm not a parent. I wouldn't know. I won't suggest it otherwise. But where things cross the line, in my opinion, is when states and local governments start to mandate children or to bully them or to advertise in such a way that it makes them feel like they're being left out if they don't get the vaccine. And believe me, that's happening. I don't see the justification for any measure given this data, especially from this new study, further because the rapidly decreasing effectiveness actually enters negative territory relatively quickly. We start to see some serious concerns raised about how the shots will affect children and adolescents in many months and years down the road. I'm talking for infertility. We should not be mandating vaccines for anyone, but we certainly should not be doing it for children and adolescents. Politicians that continue to push these policies, Governor J.B. Pritzker, I'm looking at you. School boards, I'm looking at you. They need to be held accountable in November's election. School boards aren't up for election, sadly. At the end of the day, it's the parents who should be making these decisions, and this is what I've been harping on all day today. Conservative Cat Cities 92.9, not the government officials, and definitely not these bureaucrats who have no idea what they're doing. Joe Biden has a new press secretary. I've got to shift gears here because I'm telling you, this woman is just going to be a mess. So Jen Psaki's last day, it was yesterday, and who's making the lateral move over? She's making the lateral move over to MSNBC. Good for you, Jen Psaki. Get out of my face. Oh, shoot. We couldn't be so lucky. Now we've got Karen Gianpair. And she's going to be the new face of the administration because we all know it's not Joe Biden. And she's got an interesting political history that's just now seeing the light of day. So let's rip into her for a little bit, shall we? And I hate to do this, but I have to. While Gianpair has attempted to paint herself as a moderate, that's not true. Rational voice. She's not a rational voice. She's not a moderate. So don't worry about the left screeching this. It's all fake news. In the few times that she's taken to the podium at this point, it turns out, I mean, she has tried to present herself that way as a moderate. And, oh gosh, hang on. I got to take a drink of water. I'm absolutely dying. Gosh, she is just awful. And like, these people make me want to foam at the mouth. I'm telling you, that's why I needed to take a drink of water. These people are making me so insane. It turns out that she's raving conspiratorial. She is a conspiratorial lunatic. She also happens to be in a relationship with CNN's top reporter. Yes, which really just squares the circle, doesn't it? I mean, this woman, to get out there and try to put yourself up as a moderate is just hilarious. But when Gianpair isn't claiming the 2016 election was stolen by Russian drones, this is what she believes. She believes the 2016 election was stolen from Hillary Clinton by Russian drones. She has another weird tick, asserting that everything, and I mean everything, is racist. Listen to this.
Racism, sexism, misogyny, all of that, homophobia, xenophobia, we connect it to Donald Trump, but it existed before Donald Trump. Fox News was racist before coronavirus. They are racist during the coronavirus. Fox News will be racist after the coronavirus. Racism was here before Donald Trump, and it's sadly it will be here after Donald Trump. It walks like a racist, talks like a racist, acts like a racist. It is a racist, and we have a racist president in the White House who really pushes his racism like a peacock. Donald Trump is the first president to have purposefully has made racism the center of his campaign, of his administration, clearly. I think Donald Trump wants to get rid of legal immigration, and it's because of people who come from brown and black countries. He might do away with DACA, which is another moral line that he would be crossing, which is something that would be enforcing, advancing a white supremacy agenda. Donald Trump was a white supremacist in 2011 when he decided to be the grand wizard of the birther movement. Birtherism, which is inherently racist. They want to put up these awful voter suppression laws, which is racism, to make it difficult for people of color to vote. And voter suppression is racism. That's exactly what it is. Xenophobia and racism has always played a role in outbreaks. If you look at SARS, if you look at Ebola, if you look at yellow fever or Spanish flu, we've been talking about the coronavirus and how it is an epidemic in this country, which is true. But another epidemic in this country is racism. Remember George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and so many lives, black lives that were lost last year because of violence, because of racism, because of, white supremacy. Can we kind of dispel this whole idea that the Tea Party was about the deficit when clearly that is not true? What it was about was a reactionary to the racism in America that we were seeing at the time. And what are we going to do to actually start the process, because it's going to take some time to uproot systemic racism. We have to continue to call out this racism. We cannot stop not doing that.
It's always odd to see a person who came from a well-off background, went to private school, and attended an Ivy League university complain about being oppressed. But yet here we are. That's not to say that the real racism doesn't exist, but it's clear that Gianpair, she is outside of possibly some individual interactions in her life. So has never been really held back by the supposed racism. She constantly spills out of her mouth at some point. And at that point wasn't that long ago. It's just absurd. It's just absurd that she can continue to say that white supremacy is the most pressing thing in our nation. And I watched a documentary about January 6th. And it's a really good documentary. I'll be sure to share the link. I think you got to buy it. But this documentary went into how people were prosecuted after January 6th. And it is quite revealing. People were like, they had these red dots on them, the laser guns, and it was targeted. I mean, we're talking about people who had children. We're talking about you and me. I mean, have you ever been to a Trump rally? I've gone to a Trump rally. I've seen the people there. They're great people. And it was January 6th. I didn't get to go. I really wish I could have. I had a lot of friends who went, and it's a rally, right? It's a rally. And then I saw in this documentary 2 74-year-old Midwest women, and they were being arrested, and they were being heckled by the FBI. And then I saw this dad, he has a little girl, and they came to his house in the middle of the night, shouted out, "Hey, get down on the ground, get down on the ground." And like, they put his hands behind his back, arrested him in front of his little girl in the middle of the night. And they had these big armored tanks. And this is families we're talking about. So they equipped the FBI to go in into people's houses and arrest them for what exactly? For being at a protest? For being at a protest. And I saw like the amount of people there. If you look at it, it was just probably a million people. It was an insane Stop the Steal rally. And then you look at the people who went into the Capitol. That was just a small minority. And then you look at the people who were violent in the Capitol. That's a very small minority. Tell me again that white supremacy is the hardest thing facing our nation. Who is more privileged? Some poor white or Hispanic person born in rural Texas to parents who are drug addicts, or Karen Gianpair, this new press secretary? I think we all know the answer to that. The constant grouping of demographics in this discussion as if one can proclaim absolute oppression based on such generalities it's just not healthy. And it's certainly not accomplishing anything. This is Fox News' Tucker Carlson. He pointed out Gianpair's favorite accusation, and he even gave an exhaustive list of everything she claimed is racist. Listen to Tucker Carlson. I love this.
LGBTQ plus White House press secretary, and that's all you need to know. It's a good thing. Shut up and celebrate. That's why she got the job. She's in the right group. And to the Biden administration, which thinks exclusively in terms of groups and never in terms of individuals, because individuals are messy and inconvenient, the group is all that matters.
Well, we are pushing up against a break. You're going to want to join me for the 6 o'clock hour. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Come back after the break. Yeah, I am calling for her immediate removal. I would love to see a county board member actually do this. Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. So the item that fired up the McLean County board members at this month's meeting wasn't on the agenda technically, and the leftists on the county board, they're going to tell you that, oh, well, it wasn't on the agenda, blah, blah, blah. Ugh, give me a break. Come on. It was on the agenda because you can, at the very bottom of all the county board agendas, it says that you can open it up to any department and then they can comment at that time. And that's exactly what happened. So at the end of the Justice Committee report presented by Chuck Erickson, who presides as committee chair, county board member Jim Soldner, he was asked to be recognized by the county board chair, John McIntyre. So the chair recognized this county board member at the end of the meeting. So don't listen to the Democrats. They could have talked about it there. They were going crazy and they were like, you can't talk about this at the meeting. It's not on the agenda. This is how they get you to stop thinking freely. And that's what Conservative Cat Cities 92.9 is all about today. So this is what Jim Soldner had to say. Appearances by members of the public and county employees in reference to an item not on an agenda in a second. This is where he was allowed to speak. This is what the provision says. Appearances by members of the public and county employees in reference to an item not on the agenda section of the meeting. This is where under there is where he could speak. So he did. He brought up the most recent confrontation involving the county board member, Sharon Chung, call her and tell her that she needs to stop contacting the inmates at the McLean County Jail. It's wrong. County Sheriff John Sandage, that happened. They had some strife over that last week's Justice Committee hearing that Chuck Erickson presides over. So Soldner said that he wanted to make sure that the public was aware that the meeting was on YouTube, but he thought it would be a good opportunity for the public to see what had actually happened. And he wanted to make sure that the public knew what was going on. He goes, I have been on the county board since 2008, and I don't recall a time where a single county board member has spent all this time dealing with inmates. I know that the sheriff said her name, and it was in a lot of emails between the inmates, and I'm not sure that that's the job of a county board member. It's not. The job of a county board member is to vote. You should know about the jail. Why don't you go tour the jail? I did, and it looks absolutely beautiful. It is a beautiful jail. They do a lot of good work there. It is jail, right? And there isn't like flowers, but they are provided tampons, they are provided socks, they are provided everything that they need in order to survive in there and to have a good life in there, and to be taken care of. And I'm telling you, those people within that jail do everything in their power in order to make sure that they are safe. The inmates are safe from each other and from themselves. That's their whole goal. Shayna Wachinski, she feels differently about the situation, and she defended Chung. And she says, what I saw was the sheriff interrogating the county board member for doing what she was elected to do. You are not elected to sympathize with inmates who have white supremacist tattoos. And I love this. Wachinski said that it shows when she was asked, hey, what do you think about these claims that Chung was in contact with somebody who has white supremacist tattoos? Wachinski says this: Member Chung is willing to help all constituents regardless of what they believe. Oh, come on, give me a break. Says the same woman. I mean, she has been an advocate for Asian hate, and she has been out there saying Asian hate this, Asian hate that. Why in the heck are you sympathizing with well, I can't say he's a white supremacist. He has tattoos that indicate that he's a white supremacist. I'll say that. Why are you talking to him over the McLean County Sheriff, John Sandage? What gives his statements more validity? Why? What? You should not be, helping constituents regardless in what they believe? That's a very different change of tune. Chuck Erickson, he interjected and he said that Chung has a right to her opinion, and she does. I won't say that she doesn't have a right to her opinion, but her opinion is going further than opinion, and she's acting on her opinion, and I will say that. She is acting on her opinion, and that is dangerous for those people within the jail. It's dangerous for the inmates as well. You're planting ideas in their heads. This needs to be addressed, and this needs to be addressed at a mass scale. And here's what I'm thinking, and I know this sounds kind of conspiratorial, but this is what Conservative Cat is, right? I put on my tinfoil hat. This has got to be coming down from top down. And I think that's what's happening, is that this is a top-down directive, and what they want to happen, BLM and all of these crazy activists, and I told you about the 2,000 Mules where they use these criminals in order to steal elections. Sharon Chung might not even know it, but somebody might have planted this idea in her head, hey, maybe you should contact the inmates and ask about their human rights violations. Somebody might have planted that idea in her head, knowing that what the outcome could be would be at a mass, national type scale, or like a scale that would swing the election. And that's what I think it is. It's a campaign tactic. She might not know it even. I bet it comes from the state Democrat or the Democratic Party here in McLean County. Hey, Sharon Chung, let's come over here. Come over here. I think that you should go talk to the inmates about their human rights violations. Okay, yeah, and Sharon Chung believes that, you should, make sure that that should be addressed right away. Democrats tend to, say that their beliefs are, we look at human rights atrocities first, and that we're super, socialistic in nature, and we really want these social programs in place. That's fine, whatever. Okay, so I go do that. She might not even realize the implications that have, but the person who asked or planted that idea in her head does. The top-down idea, and maybe not even the Democratic Party. So maybe the McLean County Democrats here had planted that idea in their head, and they don't even know, really, that's the intention. What the intention is here is to rile up the inmates so much to the point where they start to step out and start to have a severe confrontation with the correctional officers. Correctional officer might get in a jam, might have to use deadly force, or God forbid, or might have to bring that inmate down. Boom, you have an atrocity. You have the left screeching. This blah blah. Yeah, okay, stop. The correctional officer had to do what they did because this inmate had the idea that they weren't supposed to be in there for some odd reason, and it equipped him with this dangerous idea and this dangerous feeling that he was not supposed to be in there, and then he went after a correctional officer. You created confrontation. What needs to happen is Sharon Chung needs to be removed from that county board, and I know that's extreme, but I'm telling you right now, if these county board members had the gall, then they would do that. Somebody would say, yeah, this is not right. This needs to happen today. We need to get her off if she continues to do this. Or, and I don't know if she will do this, Sharon Chung needs to come out and she needs to say, I will not be contacting inmates in a way that, equips them with the idea that there is human rights violations in the prison, because I have been to the McLean County Jail. I shouldn't say prison. I've been to the McLean County Jail, and I've seen that there are no human rights violations occurring here. Also, the Illinois Department of Corrections have not seen any there needs to be a statement, there needs to be some sort of apology, and then there needs to be, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't care. Whatever. You can hold your belief, you can have your opinion. When your opinion starts to have real world actions and real world consequences to those actions, that's when I start to have beef. That's when I start to really lose my mind. Do I have time for the story? Yeah, I've got time for the story. So, grab the popcorn. Jeff Bezos just called out Joe Biden on Twitter. I hit this a little bit in the first hour here, but now it's not uncommon to see Joe Biden lying. He lies like he breathes. He constantly is lying about inflation and placing the blame on everything but his horrible policies. He even blamed Americans for not being focused, so they don't understand the issue. Yeah. So Joe is lying while demonstrating his economic ignorance. That's not anything unusual. This is what Joe Biden said in a tweet. You want to bring down inflation? Let's make sure the wealthiest corporations pay their fair share. Oh, boy. And Jeff Bezos, he got out there and he tweeted back. First of all, that would do absolutely nothing to help inflation. It was kicked off, at least in part by Joe Biden's excessive spending on things like the American Rescue Plan and aid to Ukraine. It would make things worse because corporations would then pass those increased costs onto consumers in higher prices. It would make things worse. Joe Biden has no idea what he's doing, and he doesn't want to stop the spending. Somebody controlling those strings wants him to spend on Ukraine. I'm going to get to Ukraine here in a second, because every time we hit on conservative cat, I'm going to bring you the truth. I'm going to bring you an idea, a perspective, an opinion that nobody else has, because quite frankly, the lamestream media, they're not going to have this idea because they don't care about you. Joe has no idea what he's doing, and so that's a sad and a bad thing to have such a person in office. It really is. But it was unusual to see this response today. Jeff Bezos says this: the newly created disinformation board should review this tweet, or maybe they need to form a non-sequitur board instead. Raising corporation taxes is fine to discuss. Taming inflation is critical to discuss. Mushing them together is just misdirection. The newly created disinformation board, he's calling out the disinformation board. Why are you so focused on the disinformation board when you should be focused on inflation, Joe? Jeff Bezos just called out Joe Biden on Twitter for lying about inflation and taxes. I hate to have to agree with that, but it's exactly right. I don't like Jeff Bezos. I don't like Jeff Bezos at all. But including giving Biden a shot, he even included, so he went as far as to say, Joe Biden, you're lying, and then Joe Biden, you probably shouldn't have this disinformation governance board. Also, this disinformation governance board, they should be going after you for lying. So what's going on here? Why is Bezos, one of the chief supporters of the mess that is the Democratic Party, has become blasting Joe Biden very, very publicly? Even taking a whack at the dangerous disinformation board. Well, here we go. I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat. They are done with Joe. The Democrats are done with Joe. They've chewed him up. They've spit him out. They aren't running Joe in 2024. Throw old Joe under the bus time at last. Is that what this is? Has Elon Musk woken up any of these characters? I don't hold out hope that Jeff Bezos has woken up. He may be realizing there is a big change coming in November, and he backed the wrong horse, aka Biden. He may be trying to appear more centrist. A little late now, though, isn't it? After all, the mess that that this has brought upon us. He has brought upon us. Jeff Bezos, this is why we're in the mess, right? Because we are relying on you for products and relying on big corporate. And that is why our inflation is just so impactful, because we need the products and we don't know how to survive. And that's really sad. So no one is going to buy this, I don't think. I think that Jeff Bezos is doing this because he knows he backed the wrong horse, or the Democrats told Jeff Bezos to do this to try to throw Joe under the bus and try to, say, like, yeah, sorry, Joe, you're not running in 2024. You have a newspaper. You could be reporting the truth, but you've been missing out on that action, Jeff. Jeff owns the Washington Post, mind you. They're all worried about Elon Musk, but whatever. But when even Jeff Bezos, owner of the Washington Post, can't stomach what Joe Biden is trying to dish out and puts out some truths out there, dissing old Joe for all to see, it's trouble time for Joe Biden and the Democrats. I don't know. I think the Democrats are really all behind it. They're in a throwdown battle, and I think they're kind of disappointed that Joe didn't work out. I think that they really wanted Joe to work out. Hey, it's Conservative Cat. Come back after the break. All right, I really want to hit abortion. One of the things that has sustained the Supreme Court as an institution, despite differences in legal philosophy, it has been the agreement on procedure in protecting the integrity of the court. Hey, it's Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Be a part of the show. Text in 309-451-9299. That's why Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer have both spoken out against court packing because they thought that it would harm the nature of the court. Democrats don't care about that integrity, which is why they have been pushing court packing to take over the court and encouraging marching on the homes of justices to try to affect their vote. But Justice Clarence Thomas, no, he's not having it. There's new remarks at a judicial conference in Dallas that indicate just how badly the leak of the draft opinion dealing with Roe v. Wade has hurt the court. Now, this is from Fox News. I don't think that what happened at the court is tremendously bad. I wonder how long we're going to have these institutions at the rate we're undermining them. This is what Clarence Thomas said. The leak, not the decision's potential implication of overturning Roe v. Wade, has potentially done irreparable harm to the people's trust in the institution. This is what he's a veteran justice. He also said this: when you lose that trust, especially in the institution that I'm in, it changes the institution fundamentally. You begin to look over your shoulder. It's like an infidelity that you can't really explain, but you can't undo it. It's like this infidelity. That's what he said. The high court's secrecy has been an integral part of the judicial process, allowing justices to deliberate free of outside pressures. Noting the members, he said this, noting that the members of the court did not think such a leak could even occur. And he goes on, he says this: oh, that's impossible. No one would ever do that. No, he was proven wrong. He said, now that trust or that belief is gone forever. That leak has done irreparable harm. Thomas also said that he didn't think you would see conservatives going to Supreme Court justices' homes as the left has been doing. You would never visit the Supreme Court justices' houses when things didn't go our way. That's what he says about conservatives. We would never do that sort of thing. We didn't throw temper tantrums. He goes, I think it is incumbent on us to always act appropriately and not to repay tit for tat. Yeah. That's not good when Clarence Thomas is describing this as an infidelity and that trust is gone forever. Infidelity leads to divorce, and it sounds like this has put a bad stake through the heart of the relationships on the court. We don't trust our court anymore, and that's dangerous. It's also clear that he thinks it was someone on the left who leaked this. For all the people speculating who the leaker is, but even beyond that, Joe Biden and the Democrats have harmed the institution by not defending it. Indeed, trying to undermine it. We've heard Jen Psaki before saying, "Oh, well, it's not the leak we should be worried about. It's the women's uteruses." And I want to say this: the Civil War, when we were fighting for slavery in the 1860s. The Civil War was something that the Republicans were fighting for, human rights. Fast forward to the 21st century. Fast forward to where we are now. Here we are, Republicans still fighting for the right to life. I just want to point that out. But Justice Alito, he said this on Thursday. He goes, "This is a subject I told myself I wasn't going to talk about today regarding, given all the circumstances. The court right now, we had our conference this morning. We're doing our work. We're taking new cases. We're headed toward the end of the term, which is always a crazy time as we get our opinions out." But what's missing from Alito's remarks, of both Thomas and Alito actually, is that the usual talk about the judicial process, right? While justices might agree, they all get along. They all don't get along, right? But they can agree that this draft opinion leak was bad. And we don't have Joe Biden or Jen Psaki coming out and saying that this was bad. And that is setting very, very bad precedent. This is an indication that there's an internal issue that needs to be resolved at the Supreme Court level. It's going to be difficult for our Supreme Court to recover, but I wanted to shift gears here a little bit. What else is difficult? Well, Pritzker says the midterm elections may be difficult for Democrats. Governor J.B. Pritzker conceded that the midterm elections later this year could be rough on Democrats. Illinois Republicans are energized. We really are. After this GOP gubernatorial win in Virginia last November, although I am so mad at Glenn Youngkin right now for not talking about the crazy left that is showing up outside of justices' homes. But speaking with the Washington Post, Pritzker was asked if he was concerned about the November election, and this is what Pritzker had to say. "There's no doubt that this is going to be a tougher year for Democrats than 2020 or 2018, but it's in large part because of the challenges that COVID brought on. The economy is expected to be a hot button issue for Illinois voters. Inflation continues to affect households, and food and gas prices continue to rise. Add on Illinois' very, very high taxes. You feel them. And many, many families are struggling right now. Inflation eased slightly in April after months of relentless increases, but remained a near 40-year high. I mean, slightly. And he tries to tout this, Governor J.B. Pritzker does, but consumer prices, they've jumped 8.3% last month from a year ago. The U.S. Labor Department reported the prices Americans pay for groceries rose 1% in April, and they're up over 10% over 12 months. This is what Pritzker had to say. It's Democrats that have rescued the economy. Oh boy, I can't. Because you guys are the only ones in power. There's no way that a Republican can even touch the economy. You guys hold everything. Oh, anyway, Pritzker said this despite the skyrocketing inflation since Joe Biden took office. This is what Pritzker also had to say. It's Democrats that have kept people safe. Oh, this is a joke because you look at your community. Do you feel safe? Honestly, do you feel safe? The Democrats have kept people safe and healthy when Republicans like Donald Trump were working against all of those things. Oh boy, Governor Jellybean, he just bounces around in your head all day, doesn't he? Republicans, they're rallying against the economic woes Americans have faced this past year. We have really been trying, constitutional conservatives, we've been trying some have formed what's called the Illinois Freedom Caucus. And the group promises to attack what it says is the excessive amount of state spending and they push for socially conservative proposals. Love the Freedom Caucus. I mean, I love Chris Missel. I love Chris Miller. I love Adam Niemerg. I love all of those guys. Brett Holbrook, Dan Calkins. I love those guys. But I hate to say this. It's baked in the cake. I'm going to keep saying it. The Illinois Constitution is broken. And until I see somebody, and I would love to see somebody, and I think Jason Barrickman actually did this. They wanted a constitutional kind of convention. I don't know what it's called at the state level, but it's where they take and rewrite the Constitution. So the Constitution was rewritten in the 1970s. And we really need to write it over again because whatever they did in the 1970s, it was absolutely abysmal. This is what Chris Miller had to say, and he's a Freedom Caucus conservative. You would think if there was ever a time where people would be fed up with the status quo, it would be now. We are fed up. We, the people, are fed up with status quo. And Governor J.B. Pritzker is the very definition of the status quo. Hey, it's Conservative Cat. Come back after the break. All right, this is a little bit of breaking news for you. The Associated Press, they're reporting at least 10 people are known dead and an unknown number are injured after a gunman opened fire at a Buffalo, New York grocery store this afternoon. The alleged shooter is now in law enforcement's custody. I know I had opened up the show and we were talking about this gunman and the mass shooting and when are we going to stop being pro-criminal. So a gunman sporting a rifle and body armor opened fire in a supermarket. And get ready for the leftists to go crazy about the Second Amendment. And he killed 10 people before being taken into custody. That's all according to AP. Details on the number of additional people shot at this Tops-friendly market and their conditions were not immediately available. The two officials were not permitted to speak publicly on the matter and did so on one condition of being anonymous. Hey, it's Conservative Cat City's 92.9 The News and Talk of Bloomington Normal. Text in, be a part of the show, 309-451-9299. So this official cautioned the investigation was in its preliminary stages and that authorities hadn't yet discerned a clear motive, but they're investigating whether the shooting was racially motivated. The supermarket is predominantly in a black neighborhood about 3 miles north of downtown Buffalo. The surrounding area is primarily residential, with a Family Dollar store and a fire station near this store where the shooting had happened. While the gunman is in custody, according to this tweet by the Buffalo police, they haven't released anything about the man's identity. We need to know this guy's identity, and I don't think I'm going to get any information on it yet. But if I do, you guys will be the first to know. So I also wanted to talk about how Bill Maher, he takes apart Jen Psaki and the White House over this abortion protest response. One of the reasons it's interesting to look at the evolution of real-time host Bill Maher is that he's someone who defines himself as a liberal. And he's seen the Democrats go so far left that it's left him more in the center and agreeing with Republicans on a lot of issues. It's the people in the center who Democrats are going to lose come November because they look at what Democrats are embracing now and they just refuse to sign on board with the crazy. Part of the crazy is how Joe Biden and the Democrats are approaching the protests against the Supreme Court justices in wake of the leak of the draft opinion in the case that might now overturn Roe v. Wade. During a panel discussion about abortion on Friday, Bill Maher, he took White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki apart. He just took her apart for being cool with protests against the justices. Psaki said that the administration didn't have a an official position, which is taking a position of not being supportive of the law that forbids such action. Here's Bill Maher.
Should there be allowed, because certainly the press spokesman at the White House is down with this. Jen Psaki asked about this. These are people who are demonstrating outside the houses of the Supreme Court justices. She said, I don't have an official U.S. government position on where people protest, but we do.
Yeah, I think we do.
It's wrong. It's intimidation. It's against the law. I mean, do we have some footage of? I mean, look, it's not terribly violent, obviously, but would you want this outside your house?
No, there's a 1950 law that says you can't protest outside a residence to influence a judge. There probably is a constitutional challenge that could win against that, or there possibly is. But it would be much better, as is now going to happen in Washington, to have a major rally. I might even be there to protest what could happen at the Supreme Court.
What's that going to do?
You know, let's just wait a month and see what the final decision is.
Bill, what it might do is it might lose the Republicans the Senate in the midterms, right? I mean, that's what it really comes down to. Because the Republicans have not wanted, in swing states, they don't want to run on this issue. They haven't had accountability. They haven't had responsibility. Right. They've had settled law of the land, and they can complain about it. That's generally where you want to be in a midterm election. Yeah. So this is a challenge for the Senate. For the House, it's a wave for the Republicans either way. But this is dangerous for them.
I don't know. Bill Maher, he had this Democrat on there, and he was saying that the Republican Senate wasn't going to be a red wave. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know if we're going to have a red wave in Illinois. I think that even if we do, we still have a lot of cleaning up to do, and I don't know if our Illinois Constitution even, I honestly don't think that the state of it, I think it's so far gone. I think it's broken. I really do. And I would hope that gubernatorial race, I mean, that is the only thing that's really going to shift anything, because at that level you can make sweeping legislation or sweeping executive orders and change things. But I don't know. I really don't think that the state of Illinois is in a position where we can combat the corruption. I think that it's baked way too far into the cake. We've got to redesign the cake. We've got to make a cake tin, and we've got to reshape the cake, and then we got to bake it. And yeah, there is no way that we are going to have this substantial of an election. Now, it could be wrong, but I don't think our election is going to be substantial enough to change things here in the state of Illinois. And every time I say yes, I get behind a candidate, I'm just like, what if? What if they're Bruce Rauner? What if they're Rhino? And I know Richard Irvin is definitely not going to help us out, and I think it would even be worse than Pritzker getting in office. Text in, do you think that's worse for us if Richard Irvin gets into office? 309-451-9299. So, bouncing back to this Bill Maher story, I don't know. It could be tough for Republicans, and that's, of course, is the goal of the leak for the Senate at the federal level. And I think it could be tough for Republicans, even here locally, right, to try to combat this message of abortion. I truly do believe that Illinois is a pro-life state. It's just a matter of how you approach it and what kind of grassroots campaigning you do surrounding the abortion thing. And I do think that most people are pro-life. I mean, studies show that time and time again. But we do have an official position from the Jen Psaki, the White House. It's wrong. This is intimidation. It's against the law to go out there and protest outside of the homes of these justices and try to intimidate them. This California representative was with Bill Maher, and she referenced the 1950 law. And it does say that it prohibits protesting outside a residence or a courthouse to influence a judge. And that's the law. But she also said that it would be much better not to do that, noting that there was going to be a major rally not at the justice's home that she might go to. So she is actually pro-choice on this whole pro-choice. It's pro-abortion. Get out over yourself. But she says that she's pro-choice. She still seemed to think that the decision might change. No, I think that they're pretty much gung-ho on their decision, and that's just the way it is, because human rights, right? I said it time and time again. We were fighting for human rights in the 1860s in the Civil War, and we're doing the same thing. And will it come to a civil war? I don't know. I think it has to. Initial polling suggests that it might not be the case, where Republicans are hurting in the Senate in November. While the enthusiasm did not go up a little, the Republican enthusiasm went up more. So the enthusiasm for the Democrat side, it's not going, down with this whole league, but it's not going up either. It might change with the final decision, but it doesn't appear to have helped the Democrats so much at this point. Not only that, Americans are not at all happy with these protests marching on the justice's home. The Democrat leaders have endorsed. 75% of Americans were against that and the doxing of their homes. In that poll, 67% of Democrats who don't approve. Why are Democrats why are they so anti-law and order? It's not going to be helpful for the Democrats when people are deciding how to vote, that they did not stand up against this lawlessness. The other thing is that most Americans don't want the radical position that Democrats just presented in their abortion bill that was just blocked and went into flames. It just caught on fire in the Senate. The bill would have allowed abortion to go up to the moment of birth. That was what this bill had said, and done away. And it was close. It was definitely close, this bill. So, oh gosh, I mean, could you imagine? And the state laws passed by the people, and it would have done away with all of those state laws passed by the people, because we elect our state officials, including things like a partial birth abortion. Yes, this is what they wanted. Maurer, he pointed out that the Democrat politicians' positions on this has radically changed. It used to be where, they don't comment on it, that they're pro-life and they don't comment on it, and you just have your 6-week abortion and okay, done, and that's a deal. No, they want you to have your abortion all the way up to birth, even a partial birth abortion. It isn't in line with how most Americans feel. And this is just something that has to happen. Maurer, he also cited this Clinton-era abortion mantra that it's safe, legal, and rare, arguing that that's not where the Democrats are now, right? Safe, legal, and rare. This was the Clinton era. Bill Clinton had said this. It's not that anymore. And this is how I know that they are just inching and stretching out that goalpost all of the time. They just move that goalpost all of the time. And it started with the Clinton era. They were like, oh yeah, it's going to be legal and it's going to be rare. Oh, give me a break. You know that you wanted those babies dead as soon as you started saying we want safe, legal, and rare abortions. It's Conservative Cat. Come back after the break. All right, so I got to get into this. There has been a lot of speculation about the health of Vladimir Putin since he ordered the invasion of Ukraine. It's Conservative Cat. Text in 309-451-9299. I did want to read this this text. I love it. I ate 2 dandelion salads last week. Leaves and flowers, croutons, carrots, chicken, cheese, onion, stock, and everything goes great with ranch. We were talking about surviving and creating things that are going to help us, and being survivalist and trying to steer away from the corporate culture that demands that we follow and we get in line. So reports and speculations have ranged from Parkinson's to cancer. What does Putin have? Putin pulled out of a hockey game that he has historically always played in, and then he sent a video message despite being at the same resort where the game was being played. He previously claimed that hockey has helped his longevity, and he's used his participation in the game to shut down rumors about his health. Now, in this video, he seemed to have some dark blotches on his cheeks, according to these reports. He has also been seen limping, as well as having a blanket on his legs during the Victory Day parade on Monday. Now there's this new report that Putin is very ill with blood cancer. According to the report from New Lines magazine, a Russian oligarch who's close to the Kremlin admitted on an audio tape to a Western venture capitalist in mid-March that Putin had surgery on his back related to blood cancer. So this recording represents a rare testimony by somebody with proven ties to the Russian government, and that it's a fanatical dictator who may be seriously unwell. I will say that Putin is a dictator. However, I do think that the invasion of Ukraine, not that it's good, but I think that we're being told that this invasion is, all Putin, all of his crazy rage. I don't know. I think that they're using Ukraine for money laundering. I think that the European globalists and Joe Biden, as whoever's running the show here in America, I think that they've been using Ukraine for a very long time, and Putin has had enough of it. So this venture capitalist taped the conversation in mid-March without the oligarch's consent, right? This Russian oligarch's consent. The source provided the recording to New Lines on the condition that they not publicly identify who this Russian or who this guy is that talked to this Western venture capitalist is who talked to this Russian oligarch. I don't know. I don't know if Putin is sick or not. I mean, according to this leaked audio, and it seems to appear that way. Finally, the head of the military intelligence for Ukraine, he told Sky News that Putin was seriously ill after receiving this video. So how does that impact us here in the United States? Well, I'll say this. We definitely shouldn't give Ukraine $40 billion if Putin is on the spritz here, right? I mean, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We should probably know if Putin is ill or not, and then if he's ill, we probably shouldn't have given $40 billion in aid to Ukraine. And I do want to end on this note here. So a majority of Republicans voted yes to aiding Ukraine with this $40 billion. Now, I've heard, Mark Levin, Sean Hannity, I've heard them say, like, oh, yeah, there was just so much fluff in it. We didn't have to give that much. And Joe Biden was really wanting like $33 billion. Why the heck did we give them $40 billion? Look, we know why they are trying to back Ukraine. We know why the virtue signaling is happening. We know why they want Ukraine to come out of this victorious. They use Ukraine. I mean, think about it. Zelensky is being used by the oligarchs in Europe. I'm not saying Russia is great. However, I am saying that Ukraine is bad. And the use of Ukraine is bad by the globalists and by Joe Biden. What concerns me is that Republicans, we have a majority of Republicans who are on the side of funding Ukraine. And I don't know if it's just the disinformation that has gotten to all of these Congress people and to all of these, people who represent us. But they really need to look at the bigger picture here. They really need to look at the bigger picture here, and we need to tell them, look, I don't know if we need to tell our elected officials, I don't know if I really want $40 billion of aid going to Ukraine. Can you tell me why you want aid to go to Ukraine? Is it because Zelensky gave you a really heartfelt speech and started crying and you think that it's just this whole terrifying thing in Ukraine? I'm not saying that there's not atrocities happening over there, but why would we go off of Zelensky's word? Really, honestly, why would we go off of Zelensky's word? He's already been kind of sketchy and shady with Joe Biden. Remember the Zelensky call, the transcript, which we still don't have. I don't know if I really think that Zelensky is being truthful or honest. I don't think Joe Biden is being truthful or honest about the situation in Ukraine, and he's the commander-in-chief, and he's the one who says that all of this is happening. But I have my speculation. And what's concerning is that there was a majority of Republicans that voted for this thing. And my fear is that we won't have that much of a red wave. Like 70% of those Republicans voted yes for that Ukrainian package to be passed. What? We should not be having Republicans in office who say yes to other countries before America. We need America first candidates. We need America first people in office. And we have 70% of Republicans voting for this thing. The war hungry, the warmongering, the I want to be the big daddy government that swoops in and saves Ukraine. Even if that is the case, we need less of that and more of, let's be energy independent. Let's be the America that we know we can be. Let's utilize our resources. Also, I want to point out something that Jen Psaki said, and I don't have a whole lot of time to play it, but she got up on stage and she had said that the American people deserve a lot of gratitude for their sacrifices and their support for this war. Anything that Jen Psaki says is, a lie. I don't think that the Americans support this war, and the fact that she's getting up there and trying to gaslight you and me and trying to say, and it's almost like, what do they do? Poll voter suppressions, and they try to say that you're winning, and like they have a candidate, and they're like, oh, they're winning in the polls, and it's supposed to, sway you at the ballot box because you're like, oh, I want to vote for a winner. That's kind of what she's doing here. She's kind of saying that the American people are in support of this war, so that way we wind up being in support of this war because we want to be winners and we want to, have people of like mind and we want to follow suit because that's is the corporate culture that I'm getting back to. We want to fall in line and we want to act like everybody else. No, you are a free thinker. You can do whatever you want to do that's best for your family. And that is the true principles of that is the true principles of America, and that is what makes her so great. So Ukraine's President Zelensky, he actually was joining Klaus Schwab in an annual meeting on the World Economic Forum. And that's all you really have to know about President Zelensky. And I'm just going to leave that there. I mean, President Zelensky, I think, is a paid-for actor. And I think that he has ties with the Nazi Party. And I think that the United States is trying to push out this message that Zelensky and Ukraine are just very, very fallen victim to Russia, which I don't doubt, but that they are blameless and that they are this white sheep. They are actually a wolf. Zelensky, Ukraine, they have allowed prostitution at mass scales. I'm talking mass scales. I'm talking huge amounts of prostitution. I'm talking huge amounts of drug trafficking, human trafficking, money laundering happening in Ukraine. They are not blameless in all of this. And we need to keep that in mind as Americans as they try to push you into thinking that we are in support of this war. A majority of us are not. Hey, it's Conservative Cat. I appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for joining me. I know I get my tinfoil hat and everything. Be sure to give us a like on Facebook and to share all of our content. It's very important that you do that because we are being censored. We are being censored and we need to get this message out there. So head on over to our Facebook page. We're also on Spotify, and you can always check out the podcast to this show, Conservative Cat, anytime on Spotify and on our website, cities929.com. Goodbye. I love you. Have a great night.